About the kids, because they keep us going day in and day out. Is there anything else that keeps your marriage strong?
Communication. Stay open to communicate with each other of things besides the kids. Lots of communication. Because once the communication doors close, then you start facing away from each other. If you're not talking, then you don't really enjoy each other.
Something I always give as advice, I give free advice to my nieces and nephews who are getting married. And I've done that a lot this last year. The big thing that I say is you don't have to agree on everything with each other, because people are individual. It's a matter of style sometimes, how you would do something versus somebody else. You don't have to agree always, but if at all possible, you should try to be nice. And try not, if you're mad at each other, try not to let it sit there and stew. And that, I think, stems back to the communication issue. You've got to be able to communicate, express when you're happy, express when you're not happy, because sometimes what I found is some people will assume that you know they're unhappy. And being a man, I don't get that vibe, but the ladies sometimes think that we're supposed to know when they're unhappy. And sometimes it's obvious to see. Other times it's like a deer in the headlights, I don't have a clue. And that even makes them more unhappy. So if you maintain communication and let your spouse know if something is not totally to your liking, I think you'll avoid a lot of pitfalls and a lot of problems.
Boy, I always know when Robin's unhappy. And I think it's important to know that, and to not be afraid to apologize for whatever it might have went wrong, and get the ball moving again. You know, try to keep a positive attitude, and don't be afraid to apologize, and just start over again. You might have to do that 2 or 3 times a day sometimes.
The communication is excellent, but I'll take it a little different twist on it. What I try to do is tell Teresa as often as I can how much I appreciate her and how much I love her. And I don't think you can ever say that too often. To put a different spin on it, if I were at work, just to tell somebody, thank you for doing a good job, Rita. You did a great job today. And Rita might say, well, it's just my job. And I would say, yes, but thank you for doing your job. For Teresa, it's, I love you. And I appreciate everything you do each day. And you might say, well, that's part of being married. Yeah, it is. But do we always say that, Well, I know you mean that. I know that, right. But I think it's just a matter of saying it and making sure that they understand each and every day how much you appreciate and how much you love them. So I don't think you can say those things too often.
I think also that it's part of being married is helping your spouse become the best that they can be. Just on a day-to-day basis.
That's a full-time job for you, ain't it? Not paying your overtime either.
Very good. Well, as we conclude here, we do have some young people in our audience here who have not been married, and Father Tom. So if we were to give them some advice, which we've shared some of that here today, what would your advice be? We talked about communication, we talked about love, showing and communicating our love and appreciation for each other. Anybody else?
We have a daughter that's getting married in June, and we were together, us, the future in-laws, them, and they've also been married 25 years. And we said, you don't have a marriage like ours. Ours works for us, and theirs works for them. You have to find your own way through it. You have to come up with your own marriage.
I'm not quite as subtle, but some of the young people at work that get married, I'll say to them, marriage is like 2 freight trains on the same track colliding head on. And again, her family had a marriage that worked for them. My family had a marriage that worked for them. But we can't just hop on either one of those trains and expect it to work for us. We had to choose our own track. So, you know, it's simple. It's those things that we talked about in our marriage preparation classes and so on. What time do you eat dinner at night? Okay, is it 5 o'clock? Is it 5:30, 6:30, 7 o'clock? It varies. You know, what are your traditions around birthdays? And Teresa and I could not have come from different families when it comes to birthday celebrations. Her family, it's a huge, huge celebration. My family, not so much. And so you have to find out what's going to work for you. Neither parent's marriage and life together is going to work for you. You guys have to come up with your own plans, your own set of traditions and so forth.
We almost broke up the first Christmas. The first
Oh.
Christmas that we were together. And so,
She's being melodramatic.
yeah. He comes from a family where everything went on the Christmas tree, including the kitchen sink, and then he covered it with tinsel. And I came from a family that, same thing, same thing. I mean, every tree had a theme, and it was blue this year or purple, and so it was just more than I could even think about that we were going to have this tree. So to this day, and this is, you know, a lot of years later, we take turns. 1 year is his tree, 1 year is my tree. And so a friend of ours came in at Christmas time one year and he goes, oh my gosh, is that too much tinsel on a tree? And I'm going, you know what? It's not my year. He gets to do whatever he wants.
For those of you who know me, ich bin nach Deutsche und meine Mutter geboren in Deutschland. Okay, basically my mother's full German, and the German customs, the little glass figurines and the little things and the tinsel and the garland and all this, that's how I was raised. The little kvetches and stuff, little things on the tree, and you'd sit there for hours and stare. And I think if the kids would tell the truth, they like my tree better. Because there's more stuff to look at, and all my little ornaments and stuff. And so that's how I was raised. My wife, it was just balls. If it's blue glass balls. If it's red this year, it's red glass balls. No,
That's where
no
the
garland,
pictures were
no
always taken in
tinsel,
front of the
no,
tree.
you know.
Pictures came in front of the tree the years of my tree.
Kelsey, do you know what kind of tree Gail prefers? Just asking, just because it might be important.
Yeah, no, I do.
Okay, good, got that covered. But I think the important part with that conversation.
Compromise.
That Lisa has there is at the time, it seems like the worst challenge that you are going to face. And you are not going to get away from this, and you're not going to give up and stuff like that. But look at how many years later we can all sit here and laugh with them over something that at one point in their marriage seemed so huge. So thank you for sharing that story.
And to know that when you're going into marriage, it is a lifetime commitment. And the first 5 years or more are really a lot of struggles, just because you're getting to know each other on a different level than just dating. So anybody who gives up before they really gave it a chance, it just wasn't worth it. You know, I mean, 'cause it takes years to get used to. It still is taking years to get used to each other, because things change, your circumstances change, you're traveling up and down constantly, and you just have to kind of go with it, and things change.
Okay, so it's time for us to kind of wrap up, but I would like to open it up. And if there's any words of wisdom from our other couples in the presentation or in the audience here today, if you have any other words of wisdom that you would like to share, no pressure. Anybody? Okay.
I just wanted to agree that at the end we started talking about ups and downs and compromises. It really did go along with today's homily. And I just wanted to kind of get everybody thinking about that as well, along with the marriage. You're going to have tribulations, but you can work through it and
eventually we'll laugh about it.
Yes.
Well, basically, life is like a roller coaster. There's good times, bad times, highs and lows, and it's quite the ride. It's a very nice adventure. It's not going to be happy all the time. It's not going to be sad all the time. You just got to wait long enough until it gets better, because it will get better if it's bad. And if it's really good, it's going to get worse. It's cyclical. It's roller coaster. It's not a merry-go-round where everything is like stagnant and everything's the same and it's boring. And I think I prefer to have a roller coaster than a merry-go-round.
And I truly think from a personal perspective that sometimes those lows that we go through are actually God speaking to us that we need to take a step back and really look inside. And I think at those low points in our life, in our marriage, is maybe when we are more inviting to God's presence in our marriage. And we kind of just say, all right, it's time for you to kind of help out here because I'm not really feeling what I should be doing here. So I think personally for me, those low points are the times that we grow together the most.
Wendy,
Yep.
you know, there are gonna be stormy times in your marriage. There's no doubt about it. Everything isn't gonna be roses. And I think what you have to do is you can't wait for that storm to pass, but you have to learn to dance in the rain. And if you take God as your partner, you're gonna get through it through your faith.
Very much so. I think faith is a big thing in marriage. We didn't touch on it a lot here today. I think we did a little bit, but I think God is the center of your marriage. And oftentimes through our hectic practices and music programs and making dinner and making lunches and going to work, and we tend to forget that. So I think this was a great opportunity for us to kind of refocus on that a little bit. And so I hope you enjoyed today's presentation and our panel discussions. There are surveys on the table for you to fill out and let us know your thoughts. Next week we will have our fourth session. And I just want to thank our panel of married couples.
We'll also give autographs afterwards.
Oh, they will sign autographs afterwards. Great. And their phone numbers so that they can kind of help you through those times. But it's very enlightening and refreshing to know that we're not alone in our struggles through our marriages, that we have great people in our faith community that will love and support us and help us keep that bond of marriage strong. So I want to thank you for that.